So, we talked about racing just in general, progressing, not to, not to badmouth, short track racing or anything like that. But if you had a magic wand for a day and you could make any change to short track racing, whether it's just up north here or cross country wide, what would you change to make it better?
I think everybody's got answers to everything, right? But what I don't see is, just my professional career, being involved in operations management and financials, and we don't see the financial side of racetracks. I don't think there's a ton of racetracks out there that are, unless you have a premier event, that are getting rich, right? And I don't even want to say getting rich, but, Five Flag Speedway. You look at it, you look at the local races, there's, you can count 20 people in the stands. If they didn't have Snowball Derby, that racetrack would be in serious trouble. Or I don't know what the Bryants, if they have money, I have no idea. But, you'd have to have somebody that truly loves racing, that can fund a racetrack. I mean, you look at what we've had around here, Wimmers, DeBoer, at Marshfield, right? They have financial backing more than relying on the racetrack to make ends meet. Even the Smileys, they have jobs, right? They do things outside of.
It's just coming down to people that love racing.
Yes, and as far as what I would change, on the racer side of things, I don't even know what the wand looks like. I hate.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, I hate,
because I don't have much of an opinion myself.
I hate the cost. I understand the argument for payouts and versus the cost of racing. The cost of racing has gone up probably tenfold, and our payouts are relatively the same as what they were 20 years ago. But look at the stands. How do you pay more? So now these racetrack owners are in a situation where they're trying to raise the gate price. I don't know that that's the solution. I really don't. They're trying to squeeze a little bit more out of the food. They're trying, the quality of the food goes down because they're trying to make a higher profit on it. And that's what I mean. They see the books, right? We don't see the books. It's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, they should do this and they should do that. But what I do think they can do is we have to adapt with the times. I feel like race tracks do a really poor job. There are some racetracks out there that are, for example, they have the 6-cylinder high school kids, bringing their cars.
Yes.
More of that. We don't, my friends from high school, they aren't sitting at the racetrack. You know what I mean? I don't know how many you have, Cody, whatever. I mean, some people I'm sure, but in general, I think you go to the racetrack, you look, it's like, okay, what are we doing to address this problem? We all want more spectators, but let's face it, the 70, 80-year-olds are not going to be around forever. So what are we doing? Something that I thought was kind of cool it might have been the last race at State, or one of the last races at State Park that I went to. And they had a group of kids brought out 10 smart cars. And it was the quirkiest, dumbest thing. But why aren't we doing more of that? All the kids they brought that are 18, 19, 20 years old that they brought to watch these smart cars go beat and bang on each other. That's what I mean about innovating. Being creative. Yes. We have taken the easy way, right? And so many people want to say, we used to do this. I don't care. Why are we looking back? That is not going to work. What are we doing to look forward? And like I said, there are some promoters that are, I feel like, doing a decent job, but there are also some promoters that, they make a Facebook post, which is free, and that's the extent of their promotion. That's not you wonder why your racetrack is not being successful. Like, how much work did that take you? 3 seconds to type up something and post a picture? Like, what are you doing to engage the 20 to 30-year-old or 10 to, I don't care, bring your family. I don't care if it's a 40-year-old that has a 10-year-old kid. Like, what are you doing to entertain them? I can tell you what's not entertaining them is the old way of thinking of the long intermissions. Enough. Like, I told Wimmers this, and I'll be honest, I didn't agree with this. And I don't want to see 6 divisions. Like, why the hell are you drawing out a show to 3-4 hours and thinking that that's valuable? Like, just because you have quantity does not equal value. Like, I don't care if I go to the racetrack and it's an hour and a half long. If it's boom, 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 and smash some stuff up and maybe at intermission, but to me, you need to keep something going at all times. Like, don't do the traditional shutdown of intermission. I know you want to sell food, and like I said, I understand there's a financial aspect to that, but figure out something creative. Maybe you do like a baseball game where you strap a thing and you take the burgers around to people and sell burgers in the stands, or soda or beer or whatever in the stands, instead of relying on people coming up, and entertain them the whole time instead of just sitting there, and okay, we're going to take, a half-hour intermission that always seems to bleed over into a longer intermission. Then you throw the green flag on the 4-cylinder race and somebody blows up. And now you have those scenarios. You're going to have the perfect night of racing once in a blue moon where everything goes smooth, and we didn't sell as many cheeseburgers because we didn't have the downtime. But in general, you're going to have that 10, 15-minute cleanup, that big wreck that takes, people can go get their hamburger, people can go get their cheeseburger during that time. But I just think, like, there's certain aspects that promoters have not kept up with, or not thought about, like, how do we engage the next generation of, we know how to treat, the 70 or 80-year-old. We know what they're used to, but that does come with some pushback, right? It's no different than what you're seeing in NASCAR. What do you think NASCAR is trying to do? They're trying to do things to attract the younger. They're getting, rappers, even though, that's not going to be at the top of my music list, but they're trying to get,
you don't stay up to date in the rap game.
No, exactly. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to draw the next generation. So there is pushback, right? You're going to get the 70-year-old NASCAR fan that, you watch Kenny Wallace. He's hilarious. His podcast, and he always does the imitations. I'm done with NASCAR. That's what you get, the 50, 60, 70-year-old, and they're done with NASCAR because they're trying to do things a little bit different. But truth be told is, it's a business. They are trying to sustain their business. So any business, where you work now, where I work now, if we say, this is how I'm going to do it in 20 years from now, we're doing it the exact same way, number one, you're probably not in business.
Yeah, you won't get to 20 years.
Exactly. So, it's a hard, answer, or question to answer. Like I said, from the racer perspective, I wish we could keep a cost under control. A bigger rule book, I'm torn. I don't know that that's the right solution. Our rule book has gotten bigger and bigger, and I get it why they're doing it, because they're trying to eliminate all this latest, greatest trick things. The one thing that I think should be done is zero testing. And I mean zero testing. I don't care what your problem is. I don't care if you blew your motor. I don't care. There is no testing. Now, the caveat to that should be, you're a new driver, you're whatever. The day of the race, you can come from 2 to 4 is open testing for, if you're a rookie in the class, for the first 2 or 3 races, there's open testing, for that. But I just think that only benefits the well-financed team. It's not going to close the gap. It's going to spread the gap, because the ties, even we didn't test that much. We could have, but even like our team, we had enough financing behind us. We could have went and tested more. That isn't helping Mark Mackesy, right? To go test, even when Mark tests, he's testing on old tires. He's not testing like we test. When we go test, there's a couple sets of brand new tires. You got 4 sets of shocks in the trailer. Like, but you're not, I don't know how you eliminate the cost,
Yeah. And it's, kind of the same thing as brought up. It's you can't slow down technology. And, as racers, I mean, we kind of look at ourselves as being smart and innovative and, do you want to dumb us down? No, I don't think we want to dumb ourselves down. And I've heard that too about the no testing thing. So when you brought that up, I was going to ask, well, what about new drivers? And I kind of like that. Well, hey, you're a new driver, so for these first several races, you can come when no one else is doing it, and you get extra time. And I think it's a if a person went that route, it's a good answer to it. Because, I mean, people spend a lot of money in testing to learn new things and to figure things out. And someone's working a full-time job or going to school, and whether they have the money or not, it's tough to go and test. And if someone's out there testing all day, they're learning.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's not a right or wrong answer. But I mean, cost is the biggest driver. And I don't know how do you, now everybody's got the stuff. I mean, how do you go back to a standard shock or and there's classes for that. And I get the argument that, like, hey, this is super late racing, right? I get that, and what you're signing up for when you get into super late racing. But I think we all wanted to see it succeed. I think that's the hard part is, yes, I agree with you. It's super late racing. It's the top level as far as local, regionally, whatever. So I'm not saying we should mandate $100 shock, this or that, but I also don't want to see tracks dying off because there's no cars and in turn no people. I don't think that's a good thing either. I think if somebody somehow, and I don't think this will ever happen, by the way, but I think somehow the only way that you can make it happen is completely shock the system, and you get every racetrack from Florida to Wisconsin on some kind of even platform. I mean, I'm not talking about needing to be perfect because they've tried that a few years ago. It was someone, but even regionally, get everybody on the same platform, start and eliminate some of this high dollar stuff. Yes, I know it's sitting on your shelf and I know it's going to be a boat anchor now, but it's going to have to shock the system. It's going to piss people off at first. People are going to say, I'm done. I'm not going to do this, right? Everybody does that, right? You get the emotional side of you. You get caught up in the moment and you say, I'm never coming back and racing at this racetrack again. But if everybody does it, everybody, then maybe there's a chance to make some big changes. But tracks are trying, but it's sporadic. It's State Park, Dells, and this track do this. Slinger does this. Kaukauna does this. And like, we're not on the same page. And, so why the hell am I going to go, I'm going to say, okay, you have to, your shock, you can't have a shock over whatever, $400, $500. But then the next track is going to let you do it. And then now that local track is in a predicament. Well, now somebody calls and says, well, screw it. I'm not going to come race at your racetrack. I'm going to go run at Slinger because they're allowing this. That's the problem if you don't have everybody in, Slinger, Kaukauna, Norway, Wassa, not Golden Sands, Elko. I don't care. Lacrosse, but there's so many differences between those racetracks. I just don't think it'll ever happen, but I think that's the only way. But I don't totally think it's doom and gloom. Is short track racing dead? No. There's racetracks that are thriving. You look at, Marshfield, Golden Sands, they were down, right? 5 years ago, they were down. I mean, there was a few years ago at Golden Sands, I thought, man, I can hear the time trials on WDEZ and, I'm thinking the heyday of, you go there and there'd be 40 super stocks and 35 super late models. Yeah. And, what happened? But they've put a lot of effort in there, and look at what has come out of it. Now they're pushing 20 super lates, and, they're starting to turn things around, but I'm sure it's a lot of work on their part.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see even Marshfield, their car counts have gone back up again. Wausau, I have to believe with Wausau closing down, I mean, not everybody's going to quit, right? There might be some that say, the hell with it. But I think in general, I think people are going to go race someplace else. So I would think that would help, Plover and Marshfield. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you covered a lot of good things. I know the one thing that I'll definitely second you on is 6 divisions racing in a night. And like I said, I don't understand the financials of how a racetrack works. So, this is me being very, inexperienced in that realm and naive, but, so I know you got to get, people in the gate, and, having more drivers brings more fans, that's, my understanding of it, and, it would be my thought on it. But when I was running, when I first got into Tundra Series, and I think it was for like a couple of year or two, maybe 3, it would always be the super late models, and there would be two other divisions. I had so many people tell me, man, Colin, when are you running another Tundra race? Because I love coming and watching those, because you guys do your longer race. There's only 2 other divisions. Me and my kids are out of there in a couple hours. And people love that. So yeah, that's definitely one thing that I've always thought about too for the last several years. And and I like asking that question. I'm probably going to keep asking it to certain guests on here, because maybe just give more talk on it, different people's opinions kind of out there, and some thought behind it. And I think it's tough to slow down technology. And even when things have been tough for me in racing, I only go racing 10, 12 times a year in a super late model. I've never really, I guess, maybe complained about the technology. I think the thing that I'd like to, a lot of things just have to happen kind of all at one time, and which isn't always feasible to make it happen. But it's just, really, for racetracks to be the place where businesses want to advertise, having racing be the thing that people are talking about, so that, businesses want to sponsor race cars. I think kind of like it used to be, and like you said, and I think it takes getting that engagement of people 20 to 30 years old. Hey, this is where people are hanging out. They're hanging out at the racetrack on Fridays and Saturday nights. Well, we're going to advertise. Well, I'm going to either advertise on a race car, I'm going to advertise on a billboard, maybe I'm going to sponsor a night at the racetrack. And it brings more, when tracks get more money and they pay more money, then it makes the money you're spending as a racer worth it, because when you're rolling the thing out of the trailer, you feel like you're not an idiot for spending what you're spending to be there and racing for what you're racing for. So that's kind of some of the things that I think about, is just, I want to see racetracks be to that thing where racetracks are where businesses want to spend their money for advertising and promoting, and race cars, the same thing. And I don't know if that's the answer. It's probably not all the answer, but it's something.
Well, and you think about like a 4-cylinder class, the payout is less. So of course, if I'm a racetrack owner, business wise, I want lower support classes, and because I'm not paying them out as much, and they're still probably bringing, most of them are still probably bringing, maybe not quite as many crew members, but they're still bringing 3-4 crew members in the pits.
Right.
So now I'm paying that guy $100 to win, and they spent, $200 to get through the gate and whatever, versus, I'm paying $1,000 to win or whatever, and that guy's bringing, $250 through the gate. So I mean, I gotta believe that simple math, but I don't think, I thought, when I look back, I know Beziners, people liked them or they didn't like them, but I thought Craig was a good promoter.
They did a lot of fun. Growing up, there was a lot of fun stuff that happened at Golden Sands.
And kids, there was a big emphasis on kids, the money
I still hear people talking about, oh man, I remember being a kid doing the big wheel races. I still hear people talking about that.
So Craig was I thought he was kind of an innovator there, where they were always doing new promotions. I remember Al Baziner, we were talking to him one time, and he said, some of these support classes that they're going to phase themselves out, every 8 to 10 years, and they did. But they were cognizant of that, and they, okay, so then they started a cruiser class, right? They were the ones that really started that cruiser class. Then they did bus racing. But it all phased out, right? Eventually the cruiser class went away. But they were always on the front end of innovating, and they had people around this is a hotbed, for, I think, in general, for some racers. And so they always had something else to attract people. And at the end of the day, the average fan, I want to watch super lights. But if you can bring people there and they can say, hey, these 2-man cruisers smashed into each other, they did this, or they finished side by side, right? You got to have something to sell. You want the entertainment. It's an entertainment business. People want to see entertainment. I don't even care if it's a super late race. I don't want to watch some single file boring race. That's not going to excite me to come back if I'm an average race fan either. So, I think there's stuff that, like, look at these EVA destructions. Sometimes it makes me sad that they're so successful, because it's like, don't these people like racing? Like, but there's your sign, right? It doesn't matter what I like. Do something at intermission. Like, do some thrill at intermission, your intermission, that there's still something going on, that it's some stupid gimmick thing that people are talking about. The bus races. How many bus races? Every time Golden Sands had bus races, that place was packed.
Oh, yeah.
And they flipped one over, and the crowd went nuts, right? Half of those, probably more than half the people, could have cared less about what went on during the races, or when people have fireworks, right? People have fireworks. People come out in droves to watch fireworks. So like the consumer is telling you what they want. You have to listen, and it doesn't matter if you don't agree with it. They are the ones that are paying to go through that gate. So I don't know, do racetracks get feedback from the consumer? Like, what value do you feel like, I feel like most people don't want true and honest feedback, like not on Facebook, because it just gets nasty on there, but like a private, like maybe getting feedback from, hey, you fill out this feedback form, you get a, free popcorn or something like that. I don't know, some gimmick.
Yeah, instead of saying what pissed you off the last time you were there, what do you want to see?
Yeah.
What do you want to see?
Yep. Like, I don't know, maybe some racetracks do that, but I think in my professional career, right, I do that all the time. Like, what can I do better? I want to do better. And I think people respond well to that. The people that report to me, they like that, right? Because they know I'm there for them. I'm there to try to help them out, to make their jobs easier, so what value are you bringing to the person that's walking through and paying $15 a head, or $10 for a 12-year-old kid? Like, you want them to leave at the end of the night and say, yeah, I spent $100, but it's the best $100 I spent this week. How do you get people to feel like that?
Yeah, I agree. And, and I think about ticket prices, and I thought, can they really charge that much? But you go to the movies and you're there to watch an hour and a half, 2-hour movie, and that's not cheap.
No.
And going to watch racing is a lot better than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.